Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football from the latest science districts, breakout stars, and on the news in between. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And we are back with another action-packed show. And Anthony, this is actually your first show, 2017.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, man, and I'm already on my third one, man.
Right.
I'm already on my third one. I was doing the show solo for the past 2 days, but I'm no longer lonely for the next 3 days because Anthony and I will be doing the show Wednesdays through Fridays. And as of now, I'm going to do the show solo for Monday and Tuesday. So I'm here.
Yes, you are.
Monday through Friday, man. I'm just cranking these shows out.
Every day.
I'm a seasoned veteran.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the most seasoned veteran here in this room.
Yeah, in this room.
You're like, what? Okay. But anyways, we got a lot to talk about. We have the finalists for the Hall of Fame in 2017. The list got announced yesterday. I'm going to let Anthony riff on his boy, Lane Kiffin. He didn't get a chance to talk about him. I talked about him yesterday, so you guys know my thoughts. And if you guys haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to it. That is episode 147. This is episode 148, so there you go. And then we're going to get into some news out of Minnesota University with their football program there. They had a lot of turmoil there for the past past month.
Right.
And we're going to bring back Why I Left Wednesday. I don't remember the last time we didn't do it, or the last time we did it. I think it's been like on a 2-week hiatus.
Something like that. That sounds about right. It's
been on a 2-week hiatus, so we have to bring him back going into the playoffs because we had some really good stories. And Why I Left Wednesday, it is basically the wackiest stories that we saw throughout the week. So let's begin today's show with the Hall of Fame finalists. So the first year eligibles, Damian Thomason,
right,
Jason Taylor, Brian Dawkins, Armand, the 15 modern era finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year. And also making the list is Morton Anderson, Tony Baselli, Isaac Bruce, Don Correll, Terrell Davis, Alan Flanica, Joe Jacoby, Ty Law, John Lynch, Kevin Maui, Terrell Owens, and Kurt Warner. So I think this is the year. By looking at this list, I think this is the year that Terrell Owens makes the Hall of Fame. I think John Lynch will make the Hall of Fame. I can see Damian Thompson as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Jason Taylor. Kurt Warner, I'm still not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he make it this year. But I think not Terrell Davis. I think he's going to take some time to get into Hall of Fame. But I think Terrell Owens is for sure player that's going to make it. When I look at this list, I think this is the year. So
we all kind of acknowledge the fact that T.O. basically didn't get into the Hall of Fame in the first round or first ballot because they didn't like him.
Yeah, right. They didn't. And you got to realize, and I understand why he didn't make it, but I feel like he should have made it.
Right.
I feel like the writers who have the votes here, who vote these players into the Hall of Fame, they're stereotypically been known as old.
Yeah,
white males. Well, that's the stereotype.
Sure.
That we always heard. So with Terrell Owens' antics on and off the field, but when you talk about Terrell Owens, the football player, like just the football player, not the person outside the field, not his antics. I'm talking about what he did on a football field. It was amazing. He was one of the most physical, consistent receivers in modern NFL history.
Right. No, he was somebody who, I mean, me watching football, right? Like I've only been doing it for about 20 years, and so we're like actually watching football. Him and Randy Moss are basically the two freak athletes, along with kind of Marvin Harrison, but they weren't necessarily freaks. Like T.O. was a freak as far as like his like body and how he always came back from injury, whether it was in the Super Bowl with against the Patriots. Randy Moss is just like the deep route is just like you're not covering him in his prime. I don't care what you do. You can double cover him. That's fine. He's still going to get the ball. Kind of freak athlete. Like those two were kind of the most insane wide receivers I've ever seen in my life. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Randy Moss, because Terrell Owens, who basically have decided, okay, we don't like you, because to be fair, he was brash and he was kind of hated and arrogant and everything else like that, and all the things we don't like, quote unquote, out of our sports. He was somebody who was very unapologetic about it, right? Like, he and Randy Moss are both unapologetic about what they did and about what they felt. But with Randy Moss, he now has ESPN/Fox Sports before that to basically be kind of like lovable and someone like that we don't necessarily assume as being a bad guy, because Randy Moss had the, straight cash homie or the fake moon stuff when he was in Minnesota. Like, he had a couple of things where people didn't like him, and the quote where he said, I play when I want to play, which isn't exactly what he meant, but he had the things where we didn't like him. But now he's kind of had a chance to basically go through that and now be on TV and get people to love him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, what they do with him. But with Terrell Owens, he's one of those guys that you basically left him out of the Hall of Fame because you didn't like him, you didn't like what he did, so you did the whole thing of like punishing him, which I get on a certain level for a year, like, fine, if you want to hold that against him. But then, you think about with like baseball with like Tim Raines, who people don't allow into the Hall of Fame for whatever reason. Like, I've heard rumors about, stuff he's did before, but he's basically been the guy who not getting in baseball, now T.O. with football. But you look at the other people that are on this list, right? So I think you get 5, right? I think you get 5 nominations for the Hall of Fame, which makes it super exclusive, right? It makes it something to where people don't get in. So you look at the people that are in. LaDainian Tomlinson, I think he's in.
I think he is. I think he's in too. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
All right, so he's in. I think T.O.'s in.
I think T.O.'s in too. I think Jason Taylor's in.
I don't think Jason Taylor, and I'm a Dolphins fan, and the only reason why I don't think Jason Taylor's in is because he didn't win, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, and I did think about that.
That's the only, and it's not his fault, really, right? Like, he and Zach Thomas, Pat Surtain, Sam Madison, back when they had that amazing defense in Miami, they did all they could to try and win games, right? David Bowen, something like that. They had really good defenses there, but when he was Jason Taylor, like, I think he played with Marino for a second, but when he was Jason Taylor, they had quarterbacks like Jay Fiedler, they had Gus Frerotte, they had Sage Rosenfeld, they had Dante Culpepper. Like, I remember all these because I friggin' watched the Dolphins. But like, they had...
Oh, and they had Chad Pennington that one year.
That one good year when Brady's knee went boom. But he didn't do the winning. Like, if he was ever on the Patriots for like, a couple of years and won a Super Bowl, then I think, bam, Jason Taylor's in, no question about it. But I think that's the only thing that, quote unquote, holds him back. I think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I just don't think the first time he's on, he gets in. Like, I think you give it a year or 2, 3, like, then he'll be in. And I think the same thing with Brian Dawkins. Like, Dawkins at least went to a Super Bowl. He was in that 2004 Super Bowl against the Patriots. But of the people here, I think the 5, I think LaDainian Tomlinson, I think Terrell Owens, I think Kurt Warner, I think those 3 are in. Isaac Bruce, it's really hard with wide receivers because it takes him a really long time, so I think he probably gets left out. One thing that I'm actually... I
think John Lynch is in this year.
John Lynch?
I think I have to put him in there.
The one thing that's...
Because when I think about Hall of Fame players, I think about the impact, and don't worry, I think about their numbers too, because their numbers speak for themselves, but I think about the impact that they leave on the field and how of significance they were to their teams. Like John Lynch, he was very important to those defenses in Denver and Tampa Bay. Terrell Owens, we talked about it.
Right.
The Damon Thomason, we talked about. Like Jason Taylor, he was an important player in that team, and he was practically their leader, even though those years when they were so bad. Jason Taylor never took a playoff. He's one of those guys that never took a playoff. Isaac Bruce, and I do agree with you, I think Isaac Bruce doesn't get in this year, but he will, because receivers, it takes a long time for them. Kurt Warner, I do think he gets in. It's just that...
Well, I think this is his 3rd or 4th year.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th year, and I kind of think like after around the 3rd or 4th time, I think you're about to get in. But he did have a really good career. I know he kind of had like a little bumpy road to Arizona there, but he was one of the reasons why Arizona became relevant in the late
100%
late 2000s there. But
they have also
but the guys I don't really see getting in, Terrell Davis, I think it might take him I don't know if he's going to get in because his career was cut short due to injuries. He had a heck of a career. Ty Law, I don't know if he'll get in this year.
No, I don't think so. The ones that are actually kind of interesting are Faneca and Mawai, because Mawai was, obviously a great player, 8-time Pro Bowler, 7-time first team All-Pro. Basically from like 1999 to 2009, he was a beast. But the thing that it's weird with him, because he was basically head of the Players Association, right? So I don't know how much that gets taken into account, because you have obviously a great playing career, but then you also have that, and then you have someone like Alan Faneca, who was basically the gold standard for a guard back in the 2000s. I mean, the dude was a Pro Bowler literally from 01 to 09 every single year.
Yeah, and that's hard to do in 8 straight years?
9. Yeah, 9 straight years.
That's hard.
An 8-time All-Pro to go along with that. Like, he is somebody who, I can see one of those two getting in. So you take Tomlinson, you take Kurt Warner, you take T.O., you take one of those 2 offensive linemen, and then maybe they decide, okay, cool, we're going to take Isaac Bruce, or okay, we're going to take, what do you say? You're going to take John Lynch, because John Lynch has been on there for a second. You can do one of those things. So, it's going to be really hard, because you're going to have people like either Jason Taylor or Brian Dawkins or Kevin Mawai, if he doesn't get in, or Alan Faneca. You have one of those guys that don't get in that are really, really deserving. It's just 5. You can only have 5. And a couple of the people that are like not on this list, but are still eligible, right? Contributors category. Mm-hmm. NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue and Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
So Tagliabue, I'm assuming he's going to get into the Hall of Fame. He basically grew the NFL. Like, he's going to get in, but I don't think he counts in those. Like,
he was kind of like more. When you look at the way the NFL is now, he kind of had a huge part of like how the NFL was going, and then Roger Goodell kind of really made the NFL into a brand. Yeah,
well, Tagliabue was the guy who, you can talk all about Roger Goodell and what he's done growing the game. As far as once Tagliabue took over, he took the game, trying to bring it over to England or growing it more globally and online and stuff like that. Tagliabue was the commissioner from 89 to 2006. Like, he kind of was the one that started to ascend it to basically be something that we all kind of just had like a heroin fix about, right? Like, he was the one that kind of brought it from, because 89, you're kind of transitioning away from the Niners and the Cowboys and stuff. Or no, not the Cowboys, the Niners. The Steelers weren't the same thing anymore. You're kind of transitioning away from them. You're starting with the Cowboys and what they're doing. You're starting with the Steelers of what's the name of Cowher. You kind of transitioned to a new thing. You had, going to 06, you had the whole Brady and Patriots run in there. Like, you kind of made it more of like a must-see TV. You had more eyes because it was the 90s. You had more people, with the online stuff. You had that. He kind of grew the game more like that, once he got in there. So I can see him getting in. And Jerry Jones, I mean, for everything you want to talk about, Jerry Jones, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, he does have 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah. And people forget about that, but he hasn't. It's been a long time since he won that Super Bowl.
It has been a long time.
He might get one this year, but
he could get one this year. I mean, he's known for a few things, right? He came in and basically ran out Tom Landry, which that took some stones, like, because you basically,
because he was there for like 20 years,
more than that. Yeah. Landry was basically the guy in Dallas, right? Like, you won Super Bowls and everything else. He was known as the Dallas Cowboys. And he basically came in and was like, yep, nope, you're done. Bye-bye. And took him out, brought in his boy, at least at the time, his boy, Jimmy Johnson, and that all went to hell at a certain point, because you got 2 of the biggest egos in sports basically colliding, but they won, Super Bowls together. And then he left, brought in Switzer, who also had an ego. Ever since 1995, hasn't won a Super Bowl, but it's been at least, in contention. There's been a lot of 8-8s mixed in there, but he's now has the best team in football, or at least the best team in the NFC. And, it'd be interesting to see. I think the winners get announced. Yeah, the class will be elected on February 4th, right? So it'd be interesting to see if the Cowboys can actually make it to the NFC Championship game, if that kind of gets him a little bit more points and stuff like that, see if they get him in. But it'll be an interesting thing with the Hall of Fame, see who gets in, see who doesn't get in. I'm pretty sure whoever doesn't get in, we're going to yell about and say how angry we are that they didn't get in and they were snubbed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and, we're always going to have an argument like someone got snubbed. But right. I just got to leave this note here is that Terrell Owens does have the second most receiving yards in NFL history, and he has the third most touchdown receptions in NFL history. And if you're in the top 5 in those most important categories, because in second in receiving yards, that's second behind Jerry Rice. That's hard to do.
Jerry.
And third, he's behind really good receivers.
Third, he's barely behind, because I looked at this. He's three touchdowns behind Randy Moss, who basically caught him at the end.
Basically, yeah.
And then also Jerry Rice.
So if he's in the category of those guys, and then he doesn't get a Hall of Fame, I don't know if I just think I think he's going to be one of those players that gets like really held out of the Hall of Fame because of his antics.
No, you can't hold him out of the Hall of Fame.
You can't, but I feel like
if they don't get in this year,
if he doesn't get in this year, then I think it's going to take maybe another year for him to do that.
Well, the thing is, we kind of let it slide after the first year. We kind of looked at it sideways, like, really? You're not going to let him in? That's what you're going to do? But we're like, all right, fine, I get it. You want to be petty. You want to be super petty. That's fine. If he doesn't get it this year, then all of a sudden you look and it's like, okay, now you're just being a jerk. Like, I get the first year, fine, because there is a difference, I think, between like a first ballot Hall of Fame and a Hall of Famer. Like, I think the first ballot Hall of Fame is just like, no, you were like the elite of the elite of the elite. And so I get the delineation between that. But if you don't do it after the second year or third year, now you're just being a jerk. Now you're just doing it to rub it in his face because you're like, oh, he wasn't nice to me, and you're basically trying to get even with the bully.
Yeah, basically. But I'm saying I think this is the year he gets in. But we're going to take our first break here, and when we get back, we're going to get into some Lane Kiffin talk, or at least you are.
Right.
And then I think we're going to try to talk about Minnesota if Anthony doesn't go on a tangent here. But yeah, we're going to talk about those two things in college football when we come back at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And Anthony, it is your time to shine. And I know how much you love to talk about Lane Kiffin. I talked about Lane Kiffin for about, I think, like 10 to 12 minutes yesterday when I was doing the show by myself, and how I was like, I don't know what to think of his, going forward with his coaching career. I did say he does deserve a head coaching position because I think he proved himself in Alabama, but he kind of has a legacy of letting his employer down. And I said, if I'm the athletic director at Florida Atlantic, I might have to hold Lane Kiffin more accountable now than ever. And I know Florida Atlantic, they are a group of 5 school. Lane Kiffin kind of made him irrelevant, so to speak, for the past couple of weeks. And if Florida Atlantic happens to be a disaster in his first year, or first couple of years, that is, while Kiffin is there, I wouldn't be surprised if you can fire him. If I'm the athletic director and this program is chaotic, just like the coaches, I would show him a pink slip.
No, you can't show them the pink slip. They've gone 3-9 the last 3 years.
I know that, but I'm saying.
Well, they have pride. No,
I know, but that's what my thoughts were. But I want to know your thoughts. I'm talking forever, and I kind of wanted this to be your segment, and I know you want it to be your segment. I know you want to talk about your boy. I want to hear your thoughts on your boy Lane Kiffin and disappointing his employer again and getting fired on his day off.
No, look. So here's the thing with Lane Kiffin, right? So I love him so much because he's basically just like, I mean, I love chaos. Like, I love chaos in sports so much. Like, it's one of the things that I love. And as long as it's like good chaos, I'm not talking about like felonious chaos. Like if it's like funny chaos. And I consider Lane Kiffin funny chaos because the man has fallen up a lot of different times in his career, right? He went to the Oakland Raiders, got fired from there in the second greatest press conference of all time. Maybe the first, depending on how you feel about Bobby Petrino when he had the neck brace press conference. But he had that press conference afterwards with Al Davis, where Al Davis looks like the tail of the crypt keeper kind of guy, just looking like, nice and old and Freddy Krueger-esque with the bandages all over his head, basically yelling at him over the overhead projector, talking about how bad of a coach he was and how bad of a person he was, which kind of right, kind of wrong, kind of with what he did. Years later, you're like, all right, Davis, you're kind of on the right track with that. But he leaves. That's fine. Goes to Tennessee. That doesn't work out. Leaves Tennessee. You get like mattresses and couches burning in the middle of the streets when he left because they were mad at him because he went to USC where he used to be beforehand. Then he goes to USC. That doesn't work out. Basically gets fired at the airport, says you can't, stay with us anymore. And then he goes to Alabama and legitimately was a good coordinator, right? Like he's offensive coordinator for the team, won a national title this year and is in the playoff again and in the national championship game again, right? Clearly, if you give him an offensive coordinator position, he knows what he's doing because he was good at that with USC as well. Now he's at FAU. And to be fair, there were kind of thoughts about him and everything else what he was doing because he missed the team bus on multiple occasions, but recently he missed it again when he was doing a press conference and basically didn't understand the time limit that they had, missed the bus, and there were reports of basically him not putting all of his focus into Alabama because it's one of those things of just like, call it senioritis, call it when you put in 2 weeks notice at a certain job and you're still at that job, but you don't care about it as much because what are you going to do, fire me? Like, I already put in my 2 weeks, you can't really do anything to me at this point. That's kind of how Lane Kiffin, it was, viewed how that was kind of working, right? Because he was taking the FAU head coaching job, but he was still over in Alabama. And, they talk about it being like a amicable, we both agree to party. No, you're not going to both agree to basically this because like it's a head coach and the offensive coordinator for the national championship game. And now you give it to Sarkisian, who oddly enough, Steve Sarkisian, by the way, 3 times now has taken over for Lane Kiffin. When Lane Kiffin was the OC of the USC back in, I think, 2006, Lane Kiffin left, Sarkisian took over. When Lane Kiffin was the head coach of USC and left, or, fired, Sarkisian took over. And now with the offensive coordinator for Alabama, when Lane Kiffin left, Sarkisian took over. So if I was Lane Kiffin, I want no parts of Sarkisian on my staff ever. It's like, oh, you're the one that's going to take over for me every single time. You're always the one that takes my job. But now you get Sarkisian, and God, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, you seriously have something where I get Sarkisian's good at his job. I get that he's a good coach. You basically said, okay, cool. You want to be an offensive coordinator? Here's the biggest game of the season. Call some plays, have fun, and go against the defense that we basically just saw shut out one of the better teams in college football at Ohio State, 31-0. Okay, cool. You want to be an offensive coordinator? Here, have that. And I get that Alabama's super talented, especially on defense. I mean, they're going to have 3 people at least go in the first round of the NFL draft on their defense, not to mention their tight end and offensive linemen and stuff like that. They have a really, really, really stacked team. And even the quarterback they have, who's a freshman, has done pretty well this year. Part of the reason why Lane Kiffin got fired because he only had, I think, something like 51 yards on the day. So it was one of those things of just like, okay, we don't think you're focusing enough on the team. We're going to get rid of you. But if you're Lane Kiffin, like, do you care if you win a national championship? You already got your one. You're going to be at FAU. And if they lose, that looks better on you because it's like, oh, okay, cool. You weren't as prepared, Sarkisian, as I was. I could have done that, and I could have won a national title. So he's probably hoping for them to lose. But with Lane Kiffin now, this is what I want for him. Okay, this is what I want for Lane Kiffin. You've given me a lot of joy, and I got a buddy who's both a Raider fan and a USC fan who he hates Lane Kiffin because he basically torched both of those franchises. But this is what I want from Lane Kiffin. You're the head coach of FAU. FAU basically has been relevant since it first got into college football because they basically broke in with Howard Schnellenberger, the old University of Miami head coach. He's the one that basically brought it into existence. Last 3 years, you've been 3-9. You're not a good program, or at least, is one way you're not a good program. And you have a chance now to just win 6 games. You don't got to win 10, go to a big bowl. No. Just win 6. Just basically double the win total of last year. Look like you're on a good start. Maybe next year get like 8 wins, 9 wins, like slowly start creeping up, right? Because whatever you want to say about Lane Kiffin, he's a good recruiter, right? He's very good at what he does is actually getting people there. Super, snake oil salesman, super greasy, like used car salesman kind of dude. Like totally someone who you look at and it's like, I don't trust what you do, but he can get people to basically act out of their own self-interest and go to FAU, which, by the way, the whole state of Florida, be it University of Florida, Florida State, Miami, FAU has him, FIU has Butch Davis, who used to be the old University of Miami head coach. South Florida has Charlie Strong. Like, they have a lot of good coaches in the state of Florida. But just win 6 games this year. That's all you got to do. Just slow progress. And then, once you do that, do the thing where you succeed and you go forward. Maybe be a head coach of, say, an LSU. Maybe be a head coach of Houston if they're still doing well. Maybe be a head coach of, like, Oregon. Something like that, right? Get a little bit of a head coaching job. And then, once you do well there, please, 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 go to either the Browns, the Niners, or the Rams. I don't care which one you go to. It doesn't matter to me. Just go to an NFL team. That's all I want, because he can't leave gracefully. Like, this is what he every place he leaves in flames. Every place he leaves basically embarrasses his program. And I kind of want him to win a national championship as a head coach, but I don't think that's ever actually going to happen. So at this point, I'm good with him just basically being the guy who just, like, he's just an insane person, because he's not as talented as Jimmy Johnson or Barry Switzer, people who are, like, really crazy head coaches, but also won national championships. He's a rung below that, but I just want to see where this crazy Lane Kiffin tour goes, because the Alabama thing, for whatever the ending was, him actually winning a national championship in Alabama made him relevant again, and I just want him to win at FAU. Just little wins. Like I said, 6 wins and 8 wins, and then go to another team, and then do whatever you want there. But that's my boy Lane Kiffin. I love him so much. He's great.
Wow. I don't know how to follow that. I don't know if I should talk about Minnesota now, but no, I'm okay. I am, but because I'm gonna be real quick with this news,
sure,
because it's a very complex,
right. It's a lot of things.
It's a complex story to fully grasp. But getting back to Lane Kiffin, you say going to the 49ers?
Yes.
No.
Fine, you don't want that because you're a fan of the words. Fan of the 49ers?
Because the first time they got a college coach in Jed York's tenure, it worked out pretty well. But what happened? Personality clash. And then another coach from college, Chip Kelly, personality clash. Lane Kiffin?
Oh, the personalities will clash.
Yeah, that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I think if the Niners were to get a coach from college, me personally, I would want it to be David Shaw from Stanford, but it's going to take a lot of money, a lot of control for David Shaw to come to San Francisco, which I don't think it's going to happen. But that's your boy.
Here's the thing with Lane Kiffin. Like, I just want him to basically stay relevant in the NFL, because if he's like, if he goes to FAU and he wins like 4 games, okay, we don't care about it, right? But it's one of those things where it's just funny, man. Like, it's one of those things. Like, there's a couple people in sports that's just like, every time something happens, it's like, wait, hold on, and like, we laugh at it, right? It's not like we get mad at him. Like, we laugh at him. We laugh at right now Aqib Talib, who basically decided to snatch the chain.
Yeah, he went full Debo
off a Crabtree. Yeah. Yes, 100% went Debo. And his explanation for it was the best. So he's just like, I saw him wearing the chain. I didn't like him wearing the chain. I took the chain off of him. It's like, but that's not, no. That's like literally assault. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not, no. But, like, just some players are just like, they're so insane. It's just like, oh, that's funny. Like, you had that before with like a Charles Haley, but back then with the Cowboys, he was an insane person. Deion Sanders is like the king of just like, I'm going to do what I want and I'm great and you can't, tell me anything. And I just kind of really enjoy Lane Kiffin, and I want him to stay relevant.
All right. Well, on that note, we're actually going to take our last and final break. And when we come back, we're going to get into some news regarding Minnesota University's football program and their, former head coach.
Right.
And we're going to get into some Why I Love Wednesday stories to end the show. So we're going to have all that for you when we come back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And for our last bit of news today, Minnesota has fired Tracy Claeys after meetings with school officials, which was announced by the university on Tuesday. Claeys met with athletic director Mark Coyle on Tuesday. Coyle does have the full support of the board of trustees and university president Eric Keller, but this all happened really fast. If you guys don't know what happened with Minnesota's football program last month, it comes over a little over 2 weeks. This decision to fire Claeys, it comes after just over 2 weeks after the football program became really became involved in a standoff, so to speak, with the school administration over the suspension of 10 players who were connected with allegations of sexual assault. So after that, the Minnesota football team were going to boycott the Holiday Bowl, which they were scheduled to play against Washington State. They ended up ending the boycott after 2 days, and they actually won the game against Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. But this goes Claeys kind of said some things a while back on social media about, supporting his players and being fair in this investigation. But he kind of said it in a way that seems pretty irky. I don't actually have the tweet. I think it's been deleted on his account. I can't really find it, and it's not really it's not on the article that I'm reading right now. But I gotta say, all that aside, Claeys did lead the Golden Gophers to a 9-4 record this season, and that was the most wins they had since 2003, which was when Minnesota had 10 wins. But Claeys' stance, he did say he could have used different wording in his tweets. The one that drew criticism for a lot of victim rights groups and faculty on campus, but he reiterated his support for the players' push due to the due process and the school's Title IX investigation. So he also planned to donate $50,000 to raise awareness for sexual assault victims. So all this aside, the administration, the athletic director said, they really want someone to go forward who is a leader that sets high expectations athletically, academically, and socially. And those are the words from Coyle, the athletic director at Minnesota. So all this aside, this has been turmoil for the past month. Mm-hmm. And there's and then to take over the head coaching position at Minnesota, they've been linked to PJ Fleck, who led Western Michigan to a 13-1 season, possibly considering candidates such as Les Miles, who's at Oklahoma State right now after being fired at LSU, Boise State's Brian Harsin, who was hired by Coyle when he worked at Minnesota, actually, and Minnesota is also expected to target Penn State offensive coordinator Joe Moorhead, and North Dakota State Chris Klieman. And then there's also a big name out there, too, Chip Kelly, who got fired from the 49ers. I can possibly see him becoming a huge coaching candidate for Minnesota. And you know how Chip Kelly turnaround in Oregon. There's another quote here. I know you like this quote here too. When Clay's when he heard the news and heard about all this, when all this played out,
Right.
Clay's told a Minneapolis TV station a few hours he was fired, quote, "I won't be here freezing my butt off, so y'all enjoy the winter." But he didn't say but.
Right. No, so the whole thing with Minnesota, right? Like, it's a tricky thing, right? So it's one of the things where, be it, Oklahoma with Mixon, be it with, which was just assault, not sexual assault, or with Baylor and everything happened there, like, it's one of those things where, so the Minnesota players basically stood up for their teammates and basically said, well, we don't think this is right. We're going to protest, or, basically boycott the thing. And then after a couple of days, they took it back. And, he was very, Clays was very adamant about backing his team. It's a weird thing because we have no idea what happened. Like you, me, everybody else, there's a handful of people that actually know what the heck happened. So we're now just kind of wondering, was his stance too tough? Did he not do the right thing as far as Clays go? And you don't know exactly what happened. And the players in Minnesota could be 100% right or they could be 100% wrong. And we're in a gray area where it's basically just like the climate is too chaotic. It's too murky. Like you don't really know. And it's way better to be on the side of, maybe if they got charged, maybe stuff happened. But that can be dangerous too because if it's a false allegation, which doesn't happen a lot, don't get me wrong. Like that's really, 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 really freaking rare. But, it's one of those things like we don't know what the heck is happening and everything gets murky and weird. And you basically just decide to go on the stance of just like, okay, we don't want to deal with this. We let the head coach go because he was a little too vocal about his, backing of the players. But that doesn't mean that the situation with those players, I think it was 10 players that got accused of this doesn't go away. Like they're still dealing with all the stuff like that, And
it's not going to go away.
And it's not going to go away. And we'll figure out eventually what happened, whether it was a false allegation or whether it actually happened. We're going to figure out all that stuff like now. But everything is so murky with the situation. And you got Clays, who basically seems like he doesn't care. I honestly don't know what to do with the situation. And I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm not trying to do anything. Like, I honestly don't know where to go with it because we have no idea what happened. Like, this could be something where they did totally terrible, awful, awful, terrible things, and they should never play football again, right? It could absolutely 100% be that. It also could be something that, Duke lacrosse, like where it didn't actually happen. Like, none of us have any idea, and it's such a murky situation that everybody's just kind of dealing with it the way they know best. And I get that they fired him, and I don't blame him for firing him. And, maybe we'll see in 6 months to a year if this whole situation has been resolved or not. But until then, it's just basically something that Minnesota decided to go in a different direction, and I get it.
Yeah, and it also has caused a lot of issues with the players as well. Because the players really do love, Clays. They really do. And then there is a underclassman, an unnamed starter who is an underclassman that told ESPN that honestly, I don't think it matters who the coach is. People don't want to play for the administration, so I think countless people would transfer if possible. And Coyle, the athletic director, said that he understands why people are deeply upset at the administration over the handling of the player suspensions. And
right.
Coyle said, quote, "I get that they're upset. I get that they're frustrated. I understand that. It's our job to find a leader who will take this program forward and unite all of them in one direction, one goal." And Clays does have a $500,000 buyout and the 2 years remaining on his contract. So, we got to see how this thing plays out. And, it kind of is similar a little bit to the Baylor situation that happened later, kind of like earlier. No, that kind of survived, that kind of ended, so to speak, in the late 2016 in September, I believe. But that went on for a while. So with this story, we gotta wait to see how it shakes out. But now it's time to move on to Wild Up Wednesday. In the episode on a kind of a lighter note,
right?
Yeah, we didn't want to leave you with this kind of like a hard news story. But we're gonna if you guys, just in case you guys haven't tuned into the show before, Wycliffe Wednesdays usually occurs a bunch of stories that have been a little wacky, so to speak. So did you want to begin?
All right, so my situation, we have a Clemson linebacker, Ben Boulware. How can I exactly say this? The man grabbed another dude from behind. And, he basically, the lineman for Clemson, worked to defuse the situation. Christian Wilkins, he basically tried to defuse the situation. We've all done it all year, mess with players. No one has done it as aggressively as Christian did. We try to be more discreet about it. He grabbed a handful. It's a weird sentence. Following a short run by Samuel in Ohio State's Fiesta Bowl loss, Wilkins was caught on camera appearing to grab at the Buckeyes' tailback's groin. The play quickly made the rounds on social media, with many Ohio State fans calling the play dirty and suggesting Wilkins should be suspended or even arrested for sexual assault, which, kind of, yes. But it's one of those weird random plays. And then basically, it was kind of the thing where the dude kind of made light of it at the end. It's I was just messing around. And he said there were no hard feelings, which is a weird sentence also.
That is a very weird sentence to say under the circumstances.
Yes. It's just a really weird story. And if you look at the video, it's not even like he's trying to be discreet about it, because I've heard about stuff like in a football pod where you do the whole quote-unquote, check the person's oil, which if you don't know what that means, just Google it. I'm not going to explain what it is. You can figure it out. And, I've heard about that situation where they basically try anything to basically in the football pile try to get you to release the football, be it choking someone or checking oil or whatever. You try to do things to get them released, but that's in a pile, condensed, harder to see. This is just right in the middle, whoop. So it's just a really weird story. Really just why did you do that? And like I said, it made the social media rounds with people were just, got their jokes off and everything else like that, got their meme game strong and everything. And now, the story is going to go away, but it's just kind of a weird, funny story that I saw. It was just oh yeah, that's definitely wide left.
That is very, very wide left. I don't know how to follow that, but my wide left story has to do with a picture that wide receivers the New York Giants posted to social media on Sunday. It featured Odell Beckham, Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard, Roger Lewis. They took a private jet to Miami after they won against the Washington Redskins 19-10 on Sunday. Mm-hmm. They were captured on social media partying topless, which means they had no shirts on.
J.R. Smith.
With a group of, they went straight J.R. Smith on us, with a group of celebrities at a nightclub and on a yacht. So there's a picture of these guys with celebrities on a yacht shirtless, and I'm like, bruh, why did you take the picture like that? It looked weird to me. It kind of, I feel like Ben Bellware would have loved to be in this picture. From what you told me. I'm sorry, but I had to go that route. But no, it didn't go unnoticed into the Giants locker room. Of course, the quarterback Eli Manning. He had to put his 2 cents in here, so to speak. So this is what he said. Quote, as a team, we kind of always pride ourselves on being well prepared. So when I saw some of those pictures, I was a little disappointed, because obviously they didn't pack accordingly. They didn't have any shirts or long pants, no shorts, no flip-flops or anything. So I was disappointed in their packing and not being prepared for that situation. No, he's not done. End quote, that is. But Eli Manning is not done. Eli Manning is not done. He had a couple more comments. This is one of them. Quote, if guys want to get away for the day, I think they were a little low on vitamin D and wanted to get some sunshine, get their vitamin D up to stay healthy for the cold winter in Green Bay. End quote. No, it is not done. Eli Manning still got some jokes left. Quote, I was telling people I'm the one who took the picture. They just wouldn't let me in with my shirt off. End quote. So, yeah. Eli Manning tried to be a jokester around this.
I mean, Eli Manning's kind of immune to this at a certain point, right? Because, I mean, the man's played with the Giants for over a decade. He's one of the better quarterbacks in, the history, or in the Giants, maybe not in the history of the NFL, but he's He's been used to this stuff. Like, he's gone through this. He's been in New York for over a decade. He played with freaking Jeremy Shockey. Do you know how crazy Jeremy Shockey is? That man is a living embodiment of Ed Hardy. Like, that dude is basically just like...
He is Ed Hardy.
He is like basically if Ed Hardy created people. Like, he is basically like an insane person on his own. And like, this isn't an insane photo. Like, you're seeing the picture right now on TV. Like, basically, it's just like something they decided to basically all take a picture. They decided to kind of like stun on it a little bit. They wanted to have a little bit of fun with it. I don't really care what they did. We yelled at Tony Romo for going to Cabo over the weekend off. Like, this whole thing is just kind of like a funny thing, and Eli basically getting them jokes off because, you know, like, what does it matter to him? Like, is he going to yell at his wide receiver? No, because Odell Beckham has basically made him a better quarterback over the last 3 years. It's been like 3 years. He's made him a better quarterback over the last 3 years, and he knows how talented people in that photo are, be it him, Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard. They're all really talented players on offense, and Eli's basically just like, all right, are you going to be back for this weekend? You're going to be back for this weekend? Okay, cool. Do whatever you want. As long as you actually are back, I really don't care what you do. You know, because wide receiver, you don't have to necessarily prepare as much as like Eli as a quarterback does. That you got to be a little bit more ready to kind of prepare for the defenses. Odell Beckham, like, you know, he has to prepare for Green Bay's cornerbacks or whatever, but it's not the same kind of thing. He basically just like, look, you're going to be ready. You're not going to embarrass me. Cool, let's go.
All right, and I just want to point out that Beckham, Cruz, and Shepard they were all present at the Giants facility on Tuesday to prepare for their game against Green Bay on Sunday. So, me, I don't have a problem with it. I think, you know, they are people. You know, they knew, you know, the next day they had a day off, and they won the game.
Yeah.
They won the game, people. They had the day. Usually, a lot of teams have Mondays off, you know, because you got to, you know, you kind of have the rest of your body. They had the next day off. They won the game. Why not? I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it at all. I think people are a little overreacting to this picture. I just laugh the way it looks, but I don't care that they did it. I just think it just looks funny the way that they took the picture because it was just so well. It looked really too well conducted.
Eli Manning played with Plaxico Burress, who shot himself. Like,
exactly,
he doesn't care.
Eli Manning played with more crazy people in his career. So, but yeah, that concludes our show, Anthony. And this is a really great episode. But yeah, you know, you guys come back tomorrow for another episode. We're going to get into some football news that have occurred over the past 24 hours, like we always do here. And, you know, I just wanted to say, as always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
We'll be back tomorrow, guys. And I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. Have a good day and have a pleasant tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.